Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Uncle Rob Bryant. I'm a Goombanga warrior of the Nambucca Valley. And my mother was a Goombanga woman born on Stewart Island in the Nambucca Valley. As such, I am a Goombanga warrior, even though born in Bellinger. My first school was Bellwood Aboriginal Reserve Primary School at Bellwood. And my first school teacher was Miss Jean Phillipson, who taught me a lot and encouraged me in my learning. Back in the 50s, the north coast of New South Wales was lacking money. It was like it was in a depression. And First Nations and non-First Nations people migrated to Brisbane to earn cash, which was not readily available on the north coast of New South Wales. I had 9 siblings, so I was the youngest. And no doubt I was spoilt. But we didn't live on the Aboriginal mission, we lived on what we call a flat. That was off the mission, but still subject to the Aboriginal Protection Board. And as such, this was drummed into me. And so I attended school all the time, because then I knew that whilst I was at school, the welfare would come around and pick me up and take me over to Kitchener. My elder sisters and that who was in Brisbane, they then went to Sydney. And one of my elder sisters, she was continually asked Mum to join them in Sydney, so that myself and my younger sister Sue can get better education opportunities and better employment opportunities. Mum made sure we had to go to school, otherwise the welfare would have picked us up and took us wherever.
What was school like in Sydney?
I did first year at Christian Brothers School in Newtown. But it was a technical school, so I did woodwork and metalwork and tech drawing. Eventually, in '63, I did the intermediate certificate. But previous to this, whilst we were on the flat at Bellwood, my elder brother, Michael, he was attending Catholic school up in Maxwell. It was then suggested by Mum and my elder brother that I apply for a education scholarship from the Aborigines Welfare Board, the one that I was frightened of. And lo and behold, I was given I was granted a scholarship to attend Woodlawn College. I didn't have any uniform. My only uniform I had was a starched white shirt. White as white. I just saw all these other students in white shirts. I said, they must be my mob, because I didn't have any uniform on. Didn't even have a tie, Woodlawn tie. And we all, because I just went with all those in uniform, just followed them. They said, we get off here. I said, oh yeah. So I just got off with them. Then we had to walk up to the college. And so was my introduction to St. John's College, Woodlawn. When my brother Michael was there, he was a gun footballer, so me having the same name, they envisaged me having the same proudness as my brother. If there was racism, I didn't. They got to me. Mum always said to me, she said, son, rise above it. And I knew that when I was a member of the first 13, whatever racism was gone because they'd be on the sideline, I'd be on the field. And they'd be cheering for me to score tries and that. So I said, oh, yeah. So I really trained hard to stay in the first 13. I could fly down the wing, I could do anything. I could step inside and but it's true what those professional footballers say. You got to get in there. You got to train. It ain't got to fall on you in your lap. You got to do your yardage, as they say. So that's what I did. I did my yardage. I did more sit-ups than was required, so that I could build up my abdominal muscles. We also had cadets, so it wasn't compulsory, but I joined the cadets and that. And we went on exercise up to Conagra. It was all your mates were part of it, right? So I joined with all them, go with them. But boarding school was good for me because I knew I could wake up and I'd have breakfast there. I knew I'd have 3 meals a day and a bed and security during the night time. Came back to Sydney's 65 and of course it was always in our family that everybody paid rent. There was no freebies. You had to pay rent. So 66 I had to go and look for an income. And that's when I went in Alexandria, went down to Spurways. Still remember the name, Spurways. And became a process worker. First job was to go and take lunch orders, to go up to the shop and get the lunches. And it was during this time that one of my elder sisters was being courted by a person from the Royal Australian Air Force. So anyway, decided I'd join the Royal Australian Air Force. And I went and I was then selected, approved as a candidate for the Royal Australian Air Force. And it was, anyway, so it was there and then that I changed my name to Joe. So when I walked out, that's after my dad's name. Dad died when I was 7 years old, so I said I'd take his name. So when I went out and met the other recruits, they said, what's your name? I said, Joe Bryant. So to a lot of them then, it was Joey Bryant. And on completion of my airframe mechanics, I was posted to 5 Squadron at RAF Base Fairburn, Canberra. And I was going there and I was as an airframe fitter, mechanic. As a mechanic, I had to work on the Iroquois of 5 Squadron. So my education was continual from the leaving certificate to within the Air Force, training as a aircraft maintenance engineer in airframes. To RAF Base Fairburn, I was there for about 6 months. I was then posted to RAAF Base Vung Tau, Vietnam, to service 9 Squadron Iroquois. Throughout my education, I look back, it was about teamwork. You had to be, whether it was primary school, you were part of a team. And I look back with my 9 siblings. It was a team. Because we all had little jobs to do. Mine was to make sure there was sticks to make a fire in the morning, because we didn't have any electricity or running water. And so when I was at Woodlawn, I just saw myself as part of a team. And I was in the first 13, I was part of a team. And when I was in the Air Force, I was part of a team that was there. There was engine fitters, electrical fitters, but we were all part of a maintenance team. We came back from Vietnam. I was in Vietnam, 70, 71. My sister said, "You changed, Rob?" I said, "No, I'm right." No, they said, you're not the right, you're not the same person who went over. Anyway, with my elder brother, he worked in a factory. He finished work at 4 o'clock, and I'd come back and I'd meet him at the pub. Because he was the only one I could talk to. I remember my first job there where he was working. It was unloading a big container. She'd started Bettelong's Haven, a rehabilitation centre for Aboriginal alcoholics. And she came over and she said, she mentioned, she says, "You probably got a drinking problem." I said, "Well, me, no." I said, "I'm right." But eventually I went over in 74 and I got sober and I stayed sober and I'm still sober today. But I look back and I was one of the lucky ones who got into a rehabilitation. And it was run for Aboriginal alcoholics. It wasn't run by Veteran Affairs or anything like that. It was run by a community organisation. I was a board member to make up to 5 Aboriginal directors. So my first job was there. Of course, I was literate and numeral. A lot of the other members who came in, they came in from out west and that. They couldn't read or write. So I then, with my job to fill in their application for Social Security, where I was lucky. I got educated, I was literate, I was numerate. The other fellow Aboriginal alcoholics, I was just the same as them, one drink of a drunk. But they couldn't read or write. And so I was there, I was able to assist filling out the application forms and going down and talking with public service members of the CES as it was then.
Back in those days, some probably weren't even registered as being born.
Yeah, that's right. I saw a course was over at Ku-ring-gai College Advanced Education, Bachelor of Business. So I went over and enrolled, and I was accepted in as a elderly student. I suppose they also accepted that I was a Vietnam veteran. I don't know, but anyway, I got in, and eventually I did my Bachelor of Business, and Ku-ring-gai College then was taken over by UTS.
Mm.
So I graduated with a Bachelor of Business from UTS. I held a fashion parade at Ku-ring-gai whilst I was a student, and that was in response to 88, when there was lots of negativity about my culture and people.
Mm.
So I said I'll hold a fashion parade at Ku-ring-gai College on the leafy North Shore. So I held a fashion parade, and so anyway, it was a great hit. Here they saw all these glamorous Aboriginal youth in Aboriginal clothing, design clothing. Anyway, the Student Association said, Rob, can you have something again next year? So anyway, by that time I was dealing with Bronwyn Bancroft,
Mm.
and she was operating a designer Aboriginal shop in Roselle. And I knew her, so I went back because I did get some of her clothing for the fashion parade. So I went to her, she said, why don't you take a dance company over there? I said, well, I said, you take this one. Ring this lady called Cheryl Stone. So I rang Cheryl Stone, and Cheryl Stone told me about promoting the dance company that she was with into a professional dance company to reflect the cultures of Australia. So I said, that sounds good. So I went back, and anyway, because I had already had the fashion parade, the Vice Chancellor then, he said to me, he said, whatever you pick for the next year, he said, I'll have the money for you.
Mhm.
So I was good. So when Cheryl Stone gave me a price, and I got back to her, she said, you got the money? I said, yes, I got the money. So she was over the moon that, they came to Bangara then, came to Ku-ring-gai College, and they filled the 1,000 auditorium. It was packed. And here again, they was introduced to first Australian culture.
Mm.
Again, the Vice Chancellor said, if you bring them again, we'll have funds for them. So they came. So they came twice whilst I was there. which was good for them because they had to earn money.
Mm.
Now, what better place to have fun than performing at a university? So Arthur Anderson was one of the initial sponsors, along with AAP and a Commonwealth Bank. What I'm telling you now is people don't know the history of Bangarra.
Mm.
And of course I was on the as the directors. That's when I knew that I took to the board then, right? That we had to have a general manager. And that was 1990. I came on as the founding general manager. The founding general manager was a Gumbanga man from the Nambucca Valley.
Mm.
Of course, I had my right-hand person was Cheryl Stone. She knew she was very au fait with the performing arts. And she said to me, she said, Rob, she said, you look after the finance. And she said, I'll look after the dances. In other words, she'd look after the performing arts side. And so she also knew that I was adept at black politics, which was very rife at that time in
Certainly
Sydney
was.
with the establishment of a dance company.
Mm.
So I did all the black politics, and that was promoting the dance company to people in Redfern, because they all knew me in Redfern from 285 Rose Street, Darlington, and from our house at Garden Street, Alexandria. So we were part of the Bryant family were part of the Sydney inner city CBD, Aboriginal community. Leading up to 1990, I was able to secure Stephen Page as our first artistic director. So I went back to being a public servant myself, and I got a job with disabilities and ageing. And I worked with Romilly Mokek, who is now a SES productivity in Canberra.
Mm.
And as far as I know, he's the only First Nation person I know who is SES level that's not in Aboriginal affairs.
Mm. It's pretty impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, so after that, then I came home, 2000, I came back home to Nambucca Heads. I got back there, I did native title with my elder brother and sisters on where our house was located. And it was there because we used to drive around the place anyway. I saw this property where that was part of where the house was. So I purchased it,
Mm.
and it was in the Pacific Highway, old Pacific Highway down Buckerheads.
Mm-hmm.
2002, I had my house, which was to be a saviour for me. I had security after coming back from Vietnam. But our native title claimant passed the registration test. We had it. Okay? I'm now on a course to find out from New South Wales Native Title Services as to why they didn't fund us. I know damn well why, but I want them to put it in writing for me.
Do you think they will?
No, but it'll just remind them that they're not going to get away with it because I'll write to Dreyfus if that's necessary. So I have many buckets things to do yet before I pass on. And this was one of the... So of course I'm on about education. I have created Uncle Rob Bryant Waddy Education Scholarship.
Mm.
And I'm working in partnership with Yalari, Y-A-L-A-R-I. And it is so with Yalari that I'm in partnership, and we do have the first one we had here from South Grafton,
Okay, yep.
and he is at the Southport School, Year 7.
Oh, okay. So they have to go to
Boarding. They have to go to a boarding school.
Right.
They have to make their application to Yalari. So I don't look after their applications.
No.
Which is good.
Mm.
They do all of that. They have access to the schools. So all I got to do is do what I did before, was to lobby for money.
Right.
And as soon as I get my marketing flyer together, that's what I'll be doing.
Mm. We had a young fella from Bunjalung Nation ask us if we can sponsor him to go to Nunda High School. Mm.
You just advise him to go to Yalari, Y-A-L-A-R-I.
Yep.
Fill the form in.
I'll do that.
Right?
Mm.
In regards to Guinevere then, in about 2000, after I bought my house, I knew I was secure in accommodation, which assisted me very much after coming back from Vietnam.
Mm.
Because I knew when I went to Sydney and I came back on the train, I knew I had my house there, my accommodation, I could go there. So it was security for me.
Yeah, and that's really important.
Yeah. In regards to Guinevere, anyway, there was about elders there, right, where Dr. Gary Williams, Uncle Martin Ballingarry and that.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, they asked me, they said, "You want to come along to a meeting?" I said, "Yeah, all right." I didn't know what the meeting was. As far as I was concerned, probably making up numbers again for board of directors. So I went and I put my name down and I nominated my brother Michael.
Mm.
So we both then became members of Guinevere.
Well, that was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago, and it was 2018. Everything was just honky-dory, you could say. I was walking around, doing this, doing that. 2018, I fell over like a brick. I was so lucky it was raining that time. The ground was soft, so I hit the soft thing and I had a stroke. Didn't see it coming, you know. I seen the doctors and they said, oh yeah, everything was all right, but it just hit me like that. There was a clot in my right side of my brain.
Mm.
So I lost use of my left limbs. But I'm sure that my ancestors negotiated with the Creator so that I could keep my speech and that my brain was still intact.
Mm.
My brain is sharp as a tack,
Yes.
and my speech is still able to talk.
Yes.
So in that way, I look at myself after being in a nursing home. I look at the other residents and I say, and I look at myself, I'm very lucky. And that's what all the nurses they say. Uncle Rob, you're very lucky. You got your speech and you got your faculties intact.
Mm.
You know what's going on. So that's about my story.
You've had a very long engagement with education at various levels, which is
At various levels, yeah.
which is fantastic and amazing. As a Guinevere elder, what would you say to students who are thinking about a university course or any type of education at all? You know, university is not for everybody. Education is though.
What course you look at? I wanted a Bachelor of Business that I got in, and it was a B Buzz I had after my name.
Mm-hmm.
And to me that opened many doors. Because I remember talking to myself, I said, if I'm going to be talking with CEOs and who probably never spoke to Aboriginal people before, I said, I'm going to have after my name, initials after my name.
Mm.
And so I said, I'm going to do a B Buzz. So when I enrolled in, I knew what I wanted at the end. I wanted B Buzz at the end of my.
Mm.
And, we don't know in life what's going to happen, what's ahead of us.
True.
I didn't know Bangarra Jazz Theatre was ahead of us, but I was the right person at the right time.
Mm. You certainly were.
Otherwise, it wouldn't have started. And I look back and I said, I wish I'd have done 12 years in the Air Force. Till my sister pointed out and she said, Rob, she said, you look back. She said, if you'd have got out 2 years before, she said, Bangarra wouldn't have started. You had to be there. You were in the right place at the right time. And that is very true.
Mm.
So to the students who were out there, there are many opportunities. You must have initials after your name. Otherwise, once you have this opportunity to complete tertiary, get the names after your name
Mm.
because they open many doors. I say this to you. We talk about economic development. If you look at business boards, a lot of directors of these business boards had never spoken to a first Australian. So you must be articulate when that time comes. And you're in a, who knows, you could be in a lift and the big managing director of one of the big banks is in there. You got 3 minutes to let them know who you are and what you stand for.
Mm.
That's what you got to have. You got to have your card with your initials after your name, so that they look at you, they say, "Oh, this person is." Because you got to think what they see on TV is what Murdoch and then what they want to put on there, right? They want to put on negative about First Nation, especially with the referendum coming up. It's another step forward.
Oh, absolutely a step
Since
forward.
1788, we've never been put down as citizens. My dad said to the, he's a member of the Aboriginal Progressive Association, he said, the people getting off the ships in Sydney has more rights than me or my family. And he was right on the button then.
That's absolutely true.
I joined the Air Force in April '67, before the referendum. So by rights, I was a non-citizen. So we talk about citizenship. Just imagine all of those Aboriginal conscripts, and they all signed up. They all put down their names down for the ballot. They were all non-citizens
Mm.
of their own country. They were like the painter from Northern Territory,
Mm.
the white
Albert
Namatjira,
Namatjira.
a non-citizen who couldn't buy alcohol and share with his fellow countrymen,
Mm.
which is part of protocol.
Yes, he actually had to renounce his Aboriginality
Yeah,
officially, just so they could charge him tax and sell his paintings. Otherwise, they couldn't sell his paintings. Yeah.
so anyway, that's what I look at. I'm a, anyway, you know, so I'll tell you now, I'm a yes person because I'm preparing a T-shirt which says, my company's called Just Too Deadly.
Mm.
And I'm having a thing called Our Elders Are Just Too Deadly.
They are too.
And I'll have Yes, we can. After Obama's Yes, we can. And that'll be on my white t-shirt.
Mm.
So, I'm not playing, oh yeah, don't worry about it. I'll say yes, I'm a yes man. Yes, we can.